guys, alrighty, last video. So I couldn't quite get through all my lecture slides in the last class this week, so I just wanted to create a quick little video for you here. But let me just say, when it comes to really the final M-tuner or the final exam, the stuff that I'm about to talk about will not be covered. Okay, so this is just more something I'm doing to give you the rest of the story, but it's not something you have to know for the final exam. So I can just imagine a bunch of you guys now pressing stop, which is okay. If you want to press stop, press stop. But if you don't, continue on. So I do just want to continue on. So I was really talking about this distinction that Daniel Kahneman highlighted between different ways humans arrive at decisions, and the idea that often we rely on quick little shortcuts, heuristics, so things like the availability heuristic and the representativeness heuristic we talked about. So rather than actually figuring things out in a sort of mathematical way, we just come up with these ways of guesstimating things. So if we want to know how likely something is, well, we think about how much can we bring to mind occurrences of that thing. And if they come to mind easily, if they're available, we think they're very likely. If they don't, then we think they're not. Representative heuristic, the idea there is when we're making decisions around people, things like stereotypes and schemas are very powerful. And so once we start to learn a little about that person, that has a very powerful effect on how we think about them and how we reason about them and decisions we make about them. And so that this representative thing just kind of sneaks in and takes over our decision-making system and can do things like even counter pre-existing odds, like the Tom case, and can make us even make irrational decisions, like the case of the feminist bank teller. Where we actually pick something that's got a much lower probability just because it feels like it matches the situation. So those are sort of examples of these ways in which decision making can be influenced by these little mental heuristics that happen very quickly. But every now and then we want to be more sure of our decisions, and that's what we're going to talk about here. Those times when we want to slow down and really try to get decisions right. And so we're going to talk about things like relying on logic and relying on critical thought. And there are times when this is really important, right? So again, I mentioned to you guys that I give these talks to judges. This is, the sort of talk, one of the things they're interested in. And for them, they're especially interested because fairness is important in the judging process. They want to kind of apply the same sort of decision principles to every case. And so they don't want to be pulled around by biases and quick acting decision things. They want to make sure they're making their decisions right. Partly too because errors are a big deal in the legal system, and when errors are a big deal, we want to get the decision right. So you don't want to send an innocent person to jail. You don't want to let a guilty person go free. Those errors can literally impact lives in very powerful ways. So we want to try to get it right. Also, there's times when we really want to be able to justify the decision we make. And so in that case, again, if we've thought about it really rationally and critically, it's often easier for us to put into words, how we came to the decision we did. So we're able to justify it. By the way, in legal situations, their last step after reaching a decision is to write up the decision, which is them justifying how they got to where they got. Okay. And then finally, when one is trying to change an incorrect but widely accepted way of being, so that should say one, social change. So I've talked to you about this a little bit already in the case of critical thought, when I talked about slavery and what if you grew up in a place where slavery was common, but you didn't agree with it. That's a case where you have to be able to provide powerful arguments that you can use to try to convince others of your position. So that's also when rational thought and critical thought are critical. So yes, we can often make decisions in very quick ways and guesstimating, and we do that all the time. It allows us to get through life efficiently. But every now and then we want to slow down and be more rational. Are we good at this? Is this something we can do? Well, we can, but we're not good at it. So first of all, again, I like to highlight, as I did to you before, that critical thought is not natural. Usually we come to our opinions and our perspectives either by mimicking others observational learning, the sort of Bandura thing. So often we just see others do things, or we know what they like, and we just mimic them because it makes us fit in, right? Nicely. But it's not because we thought about it and we decided that that's what we believe. It's because, hey, other people believe that, and I'll just believe it too, and then I fit with them. Okay, so that's more of an observational learning thing. If we go to Skinner, we have rewards and punishments when we act certain ways, and so that can push us to act certain ways or believe certain things because of the rewards and punishments of doing so. But again, that's not rational thought. That's just trying to maximize rewards and minimize punishments. And so if society, for example, rewards you for treating slaves badly and punishes you if you treat them as equals, then you're going to treat them badly and not treat them as equals. But not because of rational thought, because that's how you maximize your rewards. So these two very powerful forces that kind of push us to believe certain things or behave in certain ways, they do not reflect critical thought. And so if we want our decisions to be more critical, more reflective, we have to really kind of rise above all these natural tendencies to just make decisions quickly. Okay, and we're not very good at it. So here's an example that I give to judges as well. And this is, it would have been nice to have Top Hat for this, but I'll just try to do this with you without Top Hat. So imagine we see a set of 4 cards like this, and there is a truth about these cards. The truth is that one side has a letter on it, one side has a number on it. And what I want you to do is think about the following. Let's say we have a rule. If the card has a vowel on one side, then it must have an even number on the other. You are the rule police. Which cards would you have to turn over here to see if this rule is in fact true or not? Okay? Card or cards. So it could be just one card, it could be 4 cards, but what cards, if you turn them over, would give you information about whether the rule is true or not? So I'll just let you think about that a little bit. Have a sip of coffee in my non-Tim Hortons cup. All right. Just about everybody. Well, okay. Let me hold this, and let's come back to this. Hopefully, I don't tell you. Yeah. So you can think what cards you'd turn over in order to see if the rule's right. So now I'm going to give you the same problem, but I'm going to give it to you in a different form, a more concrete form. This is an abstract form, so I'm going to give it to you in a more concrete form. And I bet you'll see something in the concrete form that you might not see in the abstract form. So here's the concrete form. Same idea. In this case, the card has a drink on one side and a number on the other side. And the number on the other side, it reflects the age of the person who's drinking. And so now you really are a police. you are a underage drinking police. So there is a rule. Let's say if a person is drinking alcohol, that person must be over 21 years old. And so you are charged with seeing if this rule holds. So basically you walk into a pub, imagine, and this is what you see. Person 1 has a beer in front of them, you don't know their age. Person 2 has a Coke in front of them, you don't know their age. Person 3 you know is 35, but you're not sure what they're drinking. And person 4, you know they're 19 and you're not sure what they're drinking. So by flipping the card, you can learn that other information. Now, if you want to check this rule, which cards would you flip over? Card or cards? Okay. Most people find this situation easy. Now, in both cases, you're going to flip over card 1. Okay, and I'll go back to the abstract one in a second, but let's just stay here. So, if you walk in and someone's drinking a beer, you want to know how old they are. Right? Because if it turns out you flip that card over and they are less than 21, then they're in trouble, right? They are not conforming to the rule. They are rule breakers, and you will go after them. What about card 2, Coke? Well, anybody can drink Coke. That doesn't tell you anything. What about card 3, 35 years old? Well, anybody, a 35-year-old can drink anything they want. So if you flip that over, that won't tell you anything about the rule. But this 4th card, this is the one that people now see. So in the concrete example, they say, oh, a 19-year-old, yeah, I'd better check to make sure they're not drinking alcohol, okay? And so they want to flip that card over and see what that person's drinking. This 4th card has information relevant to your rule. If you flip the 4th card and this person has alcohol, then they're not conforming to the rule, right? So that's valuable information. So cards 1 and card 4 are the ones that are relevant to testing this rule. It's also true here. But how many of you said card 4 in this case? All right, so we can do the same analysis. If it has a vowel, it must have an even number. So we want to turn over 1 because 1 better have an even number on the other side, right? If it doesn't, the rule is broken. What about 2? Well, it has a consonant. This rule doesn't say anything about consonants. So if you have a consonant on one side, you could have any number on the other and not violate the rule, right? What about the next one, an even number? Well, it says if it has a vowel, it must have an even, but it doesn't say consonants can't have an even. So yes, 4 is even, but if you flip the 4 over and you find a consonant, that doesn't violate the rule. Consonants can have an even number as well. So that's not relevant, but card number 4 is, because if you flip card number 4 over and it has a vowel on the other side, then the rule has been broken, right? How many of you saw that card 4 had information value before seeing the concrete version? In this abstract version, very few people see it, including judges. They seldom pick number 4 as a relevant card. They all pick number 1, but they seldom pick number 4. A lot of them pick number 3. They're drawn to that. But as soon as I show them this version, they know 1 and 4 right away. So what does this say? Well, this says, first of all, humans aren't good at logic. It's not natural to us. And so in a very concrete case, we can kind of use it. But as we start to get abstract, then applying logic gets difficult for us. Okay, very simple point, really. It also can be derailed. Remember the Tom example where a little bit of information of Tom suddenly made you forget those base probabilities, not worry about them, and you just think he's a computer scientist even though it's a very low probability. Same idea with logic. So if you ask, say, judges to do logic problems, and remember the way logic problems work is the following, syllogisms, that the first 2 points you just are supposed to accept as true. And then the question is, does the third thing, does the conclusion follow from those first 2 points if you assume they're true? Okay? And so in the first case, all judges are angry. Felix is a judge. Is Felix angry? The answer would be yes. Okay? Now, the problem is a lot of people have trouble doing this if they don't agree with the premises. If the premises go against their existing beliefs, they want the conclusion to fit their pre-existing beliefs. So in this first thing, all judges are angry. Well, judges would say, well, that's not true. But in a logical problem, you say, yeah, but just assume it's true. But they have trouble assuming it's true. People have trouble getting around what they believe. All right? So we can do this next one too. Some judges have manners. All people with manners are respected. Therefore, most judges are respected. Does that follow? It does not. Because of these some and most things, right? It said some judges have manners. So if it said some judges are respected, then that would be accurate. But it went to most judges. And the premises do not suggest most judges are respected. But most judges are respected. So the judges kind of believe that conclusion. They think that is true, and so they will tend to accept something as logical when it isn't because it fits with their pre-existing beliefs. So once again, we're supposed to be talking about Spock here, right? Being logical, but what we keep seeing is Kirk raising his head, Captain Kirk, in the sense that we see the humanness of ourselves washing out our ability to be logical and rational. Okay, what we believe wins out over what logically follows. Okay, so this is kind of tricky, right? If you're a judge, basically what I told you is, yeah, we have all these fast ways of reaching decisions, but at certain times we can sort of slow down and try to think rationally about it. But what those last things suggest to you is we're not all that good. It's not natural, and we're not very good at it. And so what do, especially if you're a judge? Especially if this is your job, is to be rational and fair and not make errors, etc. And it's not a human thing to do. Well, you practice. So you guys know me well enough by now. Um, where I think if you want to get good at football, you have to practice a lot of the um, basic parts of that task of playing football well. So similarly, I think judges need to practice thinking rationally and logically. And as I mentioned to you, the last step of their process is justifying their decision. They have to rationally justify their decision. And so this is a case where, they really can't get away with not being logical and not being rational because they're putting it on paper and other people are going to see this. So I think this is a really good practice, a form of practice. And what I would highly recommend is that young judges be shown the details of a number of cases, and they'd be required to, come to a decision, but then write these justification letters in a really clear way, showing how they came to the decision they had and justifying. Now, I had you guys do this in Peer Scholar, right? Because I want you guys to get practice thinking critically. So you had to write that justification of the revisions you made. And so I would really, push the judging profession hard to really engage in this practice and really try to encourage this unnatural critical thought to be much more natural. And there's other recommendations I give them, but a lot of them are much more judging specific. So for you guys, thinking rationally is important practice. Now let me throw something into this. Some people will say, well, when can people start learning this? For all of you who have young children in your house, I like to say the following. When a young child starts to use that nasty word, and you know what that nasty word is, it's a nasty 3-letter word, why? They will reach a point where they start asking, we're going to go to Grammy's house today. Why? Well, we haven't seen Grammy for a while and she would like to see you. Why? Well, Grammy loves you, and people who love each other like to see each other every now and then. Why? So the kid is being a pain in the butt, right? But what's the kid forcing you to do? Well, to justify all of your decisions. So what I recommend is as soon as they can do that, their mind is ready to think rationally. And what you should do is turn the tables on them. So, kid comes up to you, can I have a cookie? Sure. We have peanut butter cookies and we have chocolate chip cookies. Which would you prefer? I would prefer peanut butter. Cool. Why? Literally asking the child to justify decisions every chance you get is pushing them to do a justification letter, an informal one, but to literally say, okay, here's why, here's what went into my thinking, here's whatever. And that's practice rational thought, thinking. So I literally think, from that age, we could start engaging in this kind of practice and enhance our critical thinking and rational thinking skills. Of course, you guys know now that Peer Scholar was devised completely to support this sort of practice. And that's really at the core of what we're trying to do. Okay, so there you have it. You end with my pitch for critical thinking, which is really something that's very near and dear to my heart. So that's it for the course. Let me just say again, thank you. Literally, thank you. I've told you before that I have 2 therapies in my life. One of them being music, and sometimes that's just practicing with the guys in the basement, not even necessarily playing out. It's just, that chance to put the world on hold and play an instrument is really nice. Actually, riding motorcycles is kind of like that for me too. But teaching classes is a very important therapy for me. It really kind of reminds me why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I really appreciate and enjoy the opportunity to mess with your heads, make you think about things in a different way, and just honestly to hang with you guys and get a sense of, where you're at intellectually, where you're at in life. It's really nice to get to know some of you guys, and I really do wish you all the best. So I will mention something that I mention to people in office hours, but now that you've been in my class and through my class, I consider you my student. So as you go through your academic career, if you ever feel you need to speak to a professor about something that's going on, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm quite willing to set aside some time and talk to students anytime. I'm not the best person to ask for about curriculum things. People like Ainsley are much better than that. But just, general life advice or whatever. You know where I am. All right. Thanks very much, guys. It's been a fantastic fall. I wish you all the best with your academic success and with your life success. Talk to you soon. Bye bye.